Good morning, everyone. The Daily Tirade, we're back to it again. I'm Brad Holt. So many different things every day that just make life a little frustrating right now in one way or another. I think for the majority of people in this country that have to live day in and day out just as normal folks. And this last week or so, a couple of things that did my heart good but probably won't make any difference. Senator Ted Cruz stood up in public and I guess made it onto TV news stuff, which the major media didn't cover very much. Maybe they did a little bit because who he did or what he did, but Cruz basically stood up and called the leader of the Republican Party, the Senate, a liar, and he basically spelled out face to face in front of a bunch of senators and I guess on camera that they had made a deal, or had been told that a deal was not made. They were going to vote on the Import-Export Bank, which basically the world knows is just pork, congressional pork. And the group of senators, I think 20 or 30 somewhere in there, were told specifically, 3 different times that there would be no deal on the export-import, bill. So Senator Cruz and a bunch of other guys voted for this thing, understanding that the import-export bill would not, go through. It had been defeated before, and they voted for it. And as soon as they voted for it, Mitch McConnell stuck it back in there. And the import-export bill is back on. And Cruz stood up and said, you told us you weren't going to do this, you told us there was no deal, you looked us in the face and said there was no deal, you did it repeatedly, and basically called him a liar to his face. And it's about time. And somebody in the House of Representatives the other day put forth a motion to kick John Boehner out of his seat as Speaker of the House. Again, in 2010, Boehner was on TV and he cried when the Republicans won the majority and they were going to do all this stuff. And on 2014, the Republicans won again, this time the House and the Senate, with pledges of we're going to do this, we're going to do this, get us elected, we'll do this. And they've done absolutely nothing. An English TV commentator I saw the other day was talking about this to someone, maybe Fox News, but the guy said very, very succinctly and very direct, the Republicans keep saying, get us in there, we'll do something, and they get in there and they do absolutely nothing. And that's exactly what's going on. The Democrats did what they call the nuclear option. They made it in the Senate so the Republicans couldn't even vote on something, with the senators having the majority. And the Republicans have no memory. They're back to covering their ass. They're not serving the people of this country from any aspect, from the way things are going and the downhill that we're taking. If the economy is so good, and we keep getting told the economy is so good, and the administration keeps saying the economy is so good, why can't people afford groceries? Which leads me to the second thing today, and probably the biggest thing. And mark my words. Again, I'm just not the smartest guy around, but you mark my words. As long as gasoline stays at above $2, this country will never recover economically. The only people that will make money are the people that trade on Wall Street. Literally the 1% now that exists that didn't exist before, and the people that manipulate the bonds, the bond markets in Wall Street and the oil companies. If you don't have to take my word for it, just look at the news stories. And you will see on a regular basis, including today, how low oil prices are going by the barrel. And first they say, well, oil is the price of oil is based on the strength of the dollar. And then they'll come out and say, well, there's a glut of oil, and there's so much oil now that the refineries and the oil companies have stopped drilling and stopped fracking because they can't make any money because the price of oil is so cheap. And yet it goes up at the pump. They're using both ends of the spectrum, and I tried to find this word the other day and it skipped me, it evaded me, and it's doing it again now. They are tailoring their answers or there are reasons why the price of gas keeps going up. And one day, they're attributing to the price of gas with the supply out there, and the next day they're attributing the price of gas with the dollar amount out there. For the first time in history, Saudi Arabia, who was charging their citizens 47 cents a gallon, they were supplementing the cost of gasoline because of the price of oil that they got. The United States has so much oil now that Saudi Arabia, for the first time, I think it started last week, is now charging $1.75 a gallon to the citizens of Saudi Arabia because they can't take the hit from the price of oil now that the United States has so much in production. So the Saudis are worried about how much oil we've got, and they're having to charge their own citizens because we have so much oil, and yet our gas prices still remain up. I live just outside of San Antonio, Texas, and one of the biggest thieves in the oil industry is Valero. Valero is the largest refinery owner in the nation, and Valero is usually the highest priced gas station. 2 years ago, Valero shut down their Aruba refining plant because there was so much gasoline that they didn't, there was nothing for them to keep refining because they had a glut. And then they raised the price of gasoline. The oil industry went up and gas prices went up. It takes forever to bring the price down, and it will go up in a heartbeat. They are using both ends of the spectrum. When it suits their purpose, they say it's regulated on the price, the value or strength of a dollar, and then they turn around and say it's regulated on the supply and demand, and there's too much. And this is not a free market deal, and this is not capitalism here, and this is not what the market can bear. This is a captive audience. They've got a captive audience, and you don't have to own a car or drive to get screwed by gas and oil. All you got to do is be able to buy food for your family. Everything that goes in that store gets a price increase based on gas and oil. And again, I'm not the smartest guy, but tell me any one single person in this nation, tell me one person that's standing up and saying the American people are getting screwed by gas and oil. The profit margins for these companies since 2008 is beyond any kind of historic record keeping that's ever been taken on anything in the world. And no one talks about it. It's not daily news. It's not in the paper every day. It's not on the internet every day, on the news media places. It's not on TV every day. They just ignore it. They just shut up. They just say, what are you going to do as an individual? And they don't talk about it. And, I tried to call a radio station. The screener actually said, well, we've talked about that before. We're not talking about it now. It's not news. It's not news. Are you kidding? Every time that you walk out that door, it costs you money. A couple months ago, we had a little deal where gas went back down to $2 a barrel, or $2 a gallon. The country had an economic boom. People were spending money because they had money in their pocket. They were able to fill up their gas tank for $20 instead of $40 or $60. People were making comments online all over the place. And then Wall Street turned around and they just pushed it right back up there. It took 2 months to get it back up to $2.50, $2.60, $2.70. It took 6 years to get it back down to $2. I really wish more people would see these things that I'm doing, or someone else that would garner more attention would stand up. I would love it if Donald Trump would take this one on and start, because he don't care what gas is because he can buy whatever he wants to with $9 billion or $10 billion. But on the other point, the guy wants to be president, and if the guy understands that the country as a whole, that 90+% of the country, this country would do better with lower fuel prices, which would allow everyone to have that money. Look, before 2008 crash, when all these people had homes they shouldn't have had, and everything was jacked up where it shouldn't have been, as long as gas was $1 a gallon, those people could afford those homes. Those people weren't losing those homes. People were stretching themselves out, but they could pay their bills. When gas went to $2, $3, and $4, all of a sudden, those people were having to pay an extra $200, $300, or $400 or more a month that they didn't have for their gas, and now they couldn't pay for their homes. And look what happened to the market. Everything in this country is related to energy, which is gas and oil. Everything. There's nothing from a flashlight to a pen to a toothpick that isn't affected by the price of gas and oil. And a 5-gallon gas can was $5. That 5-gallon gas can is $15 or $20 now. And when the price went back down to $2 a gallon, nothing went down in price. The people that have raised these prices because they were quote-unquote oil-based products are not going to turn loose of that until they are forced to turn loose of that, and they will only do that if we do something to call them on it. And right now, zero leadership in this country from anyone that will stand up on our behalf and saying, look, everybody should make a buck. There's a difference between making $1 for the work you do than there is by holding people hostage, which is what gas and oil is doing now. For 40 years, OPEC, it wasn't done on supply and demand. It wasn't done on the value of the strength of $1. For 40 years, OPEC got together and they would say, this is the dollar amount you will pay us for a barrel of oil today. For 40 years they did that. They dictated to the United States what our gas prices were going to be based on what they were going to charge us for a barrel of oil that day. And they did it for 40 years. Well, now, our gas and oil companies are doing to the American people in the United States what OPEC did for 40 years. This is what it costs you to buy oil from us today. So what we're going to charge for that barrel of oil. Nothing to do with supply and demand. Nothing to do with the price or the value of $1. Every day there's a story someplace online every day about either too much gas and oil or too much oil or too much gas available, and the reserves of gasoline, or what country's doing this or what country's doing that, and it's all bullshit. It's just an excuse. And the biggest thing you see every day, no matter what channel you go on, when they start talking to the investors about what they can do to keep the value of oil up for the people that are investing. So how many people do you know have have portfolios that are making a bunch of money? And how many people go to the grocery store and pick and choose what they buy because of the price of the items that are in there that are inflated, and they're inflated due to the price of gasoline and oil? I can't be the only guy that understands this, and you sure as hell can't listen to what they're telling you because they're lying. They lie every time they open their mouth, and we just sit there and take it. The simple solution to gas and oil prices is very simple. It'll never get out there. The media will never cover it. They'll never put it out. It'll never be on the internet, by anybody pushing this. It's real simple. You pick one oil company. I pick ExxonMobil. I think they're the biggest thieves and crooks. And you stay out of ExxonMobil. That's all. You don't got to do any protests. You don't got to not go to work. You don't got to not drive. You don't got to do anything except stay out of ExxonMobil. Don't buy gas. Don't buy soda. Don't buy milk or cigarettes or chewing gum. Just stay out of ExxonMobil. If the people of this country would, on purpose, voluntarily stay out of ExxonMobil, it'd take about 30 or 60 days and the price of gas would come rocketing down and it would stay here. And it would stay here for two reasons. The first reason would be that no company, if this was successful, would ever want to be the second company targeted, knowing that we would finally stand together and not allow them to do this to us. Again, this is not capitalism. This is holding us hostage. The second thing would be that, oh gosh, I just get so involved in this. If they were to sell or try and sell their product, through another oil company by selling it to them to have them sell it to us, and they found out, that would become the second company you go after. But if people would do that and they would just stay out of ExxonMobil, it would bring the gas prices down immediately. They would find out that the other reason is that once we stuck together, and once we as a nation said, you're ripping us and we're not going to let you do it anymore. We're not depending on legislation, not depending on our leaders that are gutless wonders and liars in many, many, many cases. If we did it as people and we just said, we're not going to buy from you anymore, just from you. You can go anyplace else you want for gas, but we're not buying from you. And if we did that, the prices would skyrocket down, and they would know they could never ever do it to us again if we stood up for ourselves, rather than depending on the 535 people in Washington that don't give a rat's ass, that are part of that 1% for what they make, that are not held accountable for what they do. And this just crossed my mind, so I'll say this before I go. When Congress votes on something, or the Senate, the House votes on something, or the Senate votes on something, they take up the votes and they say yes or no. The people that vote there, and I'll use John McCain as an example here, because John McCain is what they call a rhino, a Republican in name only. Prior to the flap with Trump, I sent McCain an email months and months ago about, thanks for your service, but you've outstayed your welcome. You do more harm, in my opinion, to this country than you do good, and you've treaded on your military service for years and years. It's time for you to go. And this is my personal opinions about the guy. But the bottom line is I live in Texas, he's in Arizona. And they get that email, and as soon as they see that I'm not in his district, his voting district, they're going to throw it away. They're going to delete it. That he's never going to hear about it. It will never get any place. I basically did it, from my own conscience, for being able to, to do something. But the bottom line is that that's one of the major problems with this country, is that every time John McCain makes a vote, it affects me. No matter what he's voting on, it affects me. Whether I like it or don't like it, it still affects me. If I don't like it, I have no recourse. And everybody else in the country has no recourse. But his vote will affect you. His vote will have a recourse on you. And the problem is that these guys know that the only people they're responsible to are the ones that get them elected, the ones that vote for them in their districts, and that's the only people they have to answer to. So the rest of us they could give a rat's ass about. And it shows on a daily basis, and it shows in the state of our nation right now of where we are, how dissatisfied people are, why Trump is so high in the polls, because he doesn't care what he says. He's not afraid of offending these guys because they can't put him down or censor him or remove him from a committee. He's got so much money, he's not worried about what they say and what they think. And for the first time, someone's out there calling it like it is. And the Republicans hate him for it, and the Democrats hate him for it. He's making people talk about things they don't want to talk about. So whether you like him or don't like him, he's still making them address things and talk about things that they don't want to talk about. And it's really funny that the biggest guys that hate him the most from both parties are the ones that are trying to cover their political ass. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's not the right way to go about it. Oh, you're going about it the wrong way, and that's not the way we do things. Okay, Lindsey Graham wants to be president. Lindsey Graham's running for president. Lindsey Graham is a guy that's been in the Senate for the last 7 years, sitting on his ass while Obama has been breaking the constitutional laws of the country. And he's not alone, but everybody sees he's breaking the laws. They talk about the laws that he's breaking, everything from immigration to, the climate control. And he sat there the last 7 years covering his ass and keeping his mouth shut. And now he wants to be president. Are you kidding? Lindsey Graham, go home, asshole. Go home. Quit muddying up the waters. You probably won't make it to the debate anyway. But the fact that you have the balls to stand up and say, I want to be your leader, after keeping your mouth shut for 7 years, while this guy was in the White House doing all this crap, and you see it, but you keep your mouth shut so you can cover your political ass and stay in office, go home. I'm surprised. It would amaze me that your state wouldn't just, despise you for being a chicken shit. So, but you're not alone. There's a lot of chicken shits out there. So anyway, so many things that affect us on a daily basis. If you could go out, if you were paying $1 a gallon for gasoline again, and you can go out and you had all that extra money, you would, spend it on food, or you'd spend it on clothes, or you might go on a vacation. A couple years ago, the radio ads came out when gas went up. What are you not going to do this year with your family going on vacation because of the price of gas and oil? In fact, when it first started, there were radio stations here in Texas that said, if you think you're being gouged at the gas pump, call this number. Lasted about a week.